Welcome to the channel, everybody. Today I have this 2020 Volvo with 745,000 miles. Check engine lights are on, and the only thing about Volvos, then you get every single warning on the screen, and you're gonna have so many messages when you have a problem with any computer, and that's kind of annoying sometimes. But anyway, here I have the computer connected to, and I have couple codes, full codes to this Volvo D13. We have the overboost EGR, then there is no enough flow, and here are the fault numbers, right? Then we have this one to EGR, and the signal isn't okay, it's some kind of problem. And this one is the leveling unit, the header, DF header, then was the DF tank somewhere here. So, but that has nothing to do with the problem that we have right now. Then it's low power and regen doesn't work, and that's pretty much it. And then we have a bunch of other fault codes related to different things, and EGRC as well too. Anyway, the main codes, the reason why we're losing power, overboost, EGR, and EGR fault code numbers right here, these three. So what is the problem right here? And that's what we're gonna find out right now, and I'm gonna show you what's the issue. These Volvo D13s are very reliable engines, but they have problems just like any other engine. They're kind of expensive to fix, just because they're a little better, but still, like, it doesn't compensate the amount of money you pay for a reliable engine anyway. So the actual problem, let's go straight to the problem. The actual problem is right here. That's the EGR valve right there on the back, that one right there, and then the flow goes down to the EGR cooler, and then the EGR cooler goes right here and then goes to the engine. So this circuit right here is the one that controls the turbo speed and the EGR flow, so you can compensate emissions. So the problem is then we have a faulty EGR cooler. The EGR cooler is kind of like clogged, it's kind of like not letting enough flow to the intake, because it goes back to the intake. So the flow of the EGR cooler is very restricted, and the sensor right here detects that the flow isn't the greatest. There is a problem with the flow, and we need to look at it. And that causes also turbo overspeed, because there is more pressure than what the engine should be building in a specific moment, specifically when the EGR valve is open. And not only that, we also have coolant consumption. The coolant goes low eventually. It doesn't go low very fast, but every 1,000 miles or so it goes like a half gallon or gallon, depending on the circumstances. So the EGR cooler is restricted, and we have a coolant consumption, and all that goes to the EGR cooler. And here we have the proof, see right there, of a bad EGR cooler. See that right there, that white stain? That's coolant coming from the EGR cooler, and then it drops right there. That's the drip of EGR cooler. I mean the coolant right there. Kind of hard to see it. Let's see there. See that is because it is leaking from here and going down, and then it's spraying all over to the back. It's mostly then we need to replace the EGR cooler. In so many circumstances, when you have low, insufficient, or very poor performance of the EGR system, then there is not enough flow to the intake. The sensor doesn't detect the right amount of flow, many cases EGR cooler is bad, and the way it goes bad, it can be by having problems with so much carbon built inside, and the carbon built just like obstructs the flow of the gases that are coming from the exhaust. Or it can be then coolant is leaking, as it is right now, and the coolant is going to stop the flow by creating some kind of like material, like you can see, like a kind of like a gel, kind of like hard material. Then it's going to be created by the contamination of exhaust gases and coolant. So when they mix together, they create that black matter right there. Then it's pretty very hard, very tough, and of course the pressure then the exhaust is building is not enough to push that through the cells of the EGR cooler, and that causes the insufficient flow. And as insufficient flow of EGR, as I say, you create more pressure in the exhaust area, because the pressure of the exhaust is not dropping, it's increasing instead, because there is pressure underneath, which is the EGR cooler, and the turbo detects an overspeed situation, which is not being controlled by the computer. It is not under control, and that is the reason why. So basically, once we fix this problem, this is going to go away, unless we have a different problem, right? But as it is, that is the way it looks like. At this point, what we have to do is replace the EGR cooler and replace the venturi pipe, which is this one right here. Very important. Every time you replace the EGR cooler, replace the venturi pipe, because the venturi pipe has some passages to the EGR delta pressure sensor, and those passages, they get contaminated with the same material that is here, or they get contaminated with carbon built too, and that obstructs the flow of the pressure, and the EGR delta pressure sensor doesn't give you the right information when the engine is performing, and that gonna trigger different fault codes. So as it is now, we are going to replace the EGR cooler. We're gonna replace the venturi pipe. Sensor looks new, but if we find any problems with it, we are going to replace it as well. We're gonna replace that hose over there, and whatever else is necessary to make sure that this Volvo is back on the road nicely and smooth. But this is what we're gonna do. As it is now, we are not removing the EGR cooler yet, because this truck has to move some stuff, and when comes back, we're going to do the job. So that means then, once I remove the EGR cooler, I'm gonna do a different video showing you what it's like when a EGR cooler gets contaminated with fuel, with coolant, with coolant inside, how it looks from inside, and how a new one looks like. So I will do that, so that way you get an idea of what's going on here. But as it is, this is all. And remember, this is a 2020 Volvo D13. This doesn't mean that it's going to be the same for other Volvos, but it's going to be kind of similar. So all you have to do is just make sure, then if you're having problems with the EGR cooler or the EGR flow, make sure then the EGR cooler is completely dry. If you find any contaminations of coolant, very possible then you will need to replace the EGR cooler, the EGR venturi pipe, and the EGR delta pressure sensor. So any questions, comment below. You can go Instagram, find me as franciscoamaya. YouTube, you can find me there, ask me questions too. You can email, you can come to the shop. In the description of the video I have details how to come to the shop. And for anybody that is wondering what I'm using to diagnose this Volvo, I have a J-Pro software. It works pretty well with Volvos, and you can even do some programming, which is great. But this is all for you guys. So well, I mean, I guess see you in the next video, and probably I'll do another Volvo video, so that way you get informative with this. You stay informative with these trucks. They are very complicated. Thank you.